I never thought my own brother would throw me out on the street the day after we buried our parents, but when I came home to find the locks changed and my belongings in bin bags on the pavement, I realized I never really knew David at all. The rain was pouring down that Tuesday afternoon in Manchester, soaking through my black funeral dress as I stood there staring at those bags, my entire life reduced to rubbish waiting to be collected. My hands were still shaking from lowering our mother's coffin into the ground just 24 hours earlier. My father had died 3 weeks before her, a massive heart attack that came without warning, and Mum simply couldn't survive without him. The doctor said it was a stroke, but I knew better. She died of a broken heart. I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers and called David. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice cold and businesslike. "Emma, I was going to call you," he said, and I could hear Vanessa's shrill laugh in the background. "The house needs to be cleared. I've arranged for an estate agent to come tomorrow." "David, what are you talking about?" I asked, my voice breaking. "This is our family home. Why are my things outside?" "The property belongs to me now," he said simply. "I'm the eldest. I'm handling everything. You need to find somewhere else to stay." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "You can't just kick me out. I've been taking care of Mum and Dad for the past 2 years while you barely visited." "That was your choice, Emma. Nobody asked you to put your life on hold. The solicitor will be in touch about the will reading next week. Collect your things and leave." He hung up before I could respond. I stood there in the rain, and I felt something shift inside me. The grief was still there, crushing and overwhelming, but underneath it, something cold and hard was beginning to form. Anger. Sophie arrived within 20 minutes, her car already packed with blankets. "You're staying with me," she announced, immediately loading my bags. "Don't even argue." That night, lying in Sophie's spare bed, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying every moment. David had always been the golden child, the successful one who went to Oxford and landed a 6-figure job in London. I was the creative one who chose art school and ended up freelancing from home to help care for our aging parents. For the past 2 years, I'd been the one who moved back home when Dad's health started failing. I drove them to hospital appointments, cooked their meals, held Mum's hand during Dad's final moments. David visited maybe once a month, always with an excuse about work, always leaving before things got difficult, and now he thought he could just take everything. My phone buzzed at 2 in the morning. A text from an unknown number. "This is Richard Pemberton, your parents' solicitor. The will reading is scheduled for next Friday at 10 a.m. Please ensure you attend. It's extremely important. Your parents left very specific instructions." The week that followed was torture. I tried calling David 6 times, but he never answered. I drove past the house and saw removal vans, estate agents, and on Thursday afternoon, a sold sign going up. He was selling our family home before our parents were even cold in the ground. Friday morning arrived cold and gray. I dressed in the navy suit Mum had bought me, the one she said made me look professional and capable. The solicitor's office was in a beautiful Victorian building, and I was the first to arrive. David swept in 15 minutes later, Vanessa attached to his arm like an expensive accessory in her designer labels and perfect hair. "Emma," David said, nodding at me like I was a business associate. "You look well." I couldn't speak. I just focused on the notepad in front of me, my pen gripped so tightly my knuckles were white. Mr. Pemberton entered precisely at 10 o'clock, carrying a leather folder and several sealed envelopes. "Thank you both for coming," he said. "I know this is difficult. Before we begin, I need to explain something. Your parents updated their will 6 months ago with very specific requests. My heart started pounding. 6 months ago. Let me begin with the property assets, Mr. Pemberton said, opening the folder. The family home at 42 Rosewood Avenue, valued at approximately $850,000, has been left entirely to Emma Charlotte Hayes. The room went completely silent. David's face turned an alarming shade of red. That's impossible, he said, his voice tight. I'm the eldest son. That's tradition. With respect, Mr. Hayes, your parents' wishes were explicitly clear, Mr. Pemberton said calmly. The 2 rental properties in Leeds and Birmingham have also been left to Emma, along with the rental income. Vanessa let out a small gasp. Those properties generated nearly $3,000 a month. This is ridiculous, David snapped, standing up. My father would never do this. I'm the successful one. Emma hasn't contributed anything. Please sit down, Mr. Hayes, Mr. Pemberton said with an edge of steel. We're not finished. David sat slowly, his jaw clenched. The investment portfolio, valued at approximately $430,000, has been divided, Mr. Pemberton continued. Emma receives 75%, and David, you receive 25%. I couldn't breathe. My parents had money? I'd had no idea. Additionally, the family business, Hayes and Hayes Lelly-Teed, along with all business assets and the commercial property, has been left entirely to Emma. The business generates an annual profit of approximately $180,000. David exploded out of his chair. This is insane. Emma manipulated them. She had access when they were vulnerable. I'll contest this. No judge will allow this to stand. Mr. Pemberton's expression didn't change. Your parents anticipated that reaction. That's why they prepared something for you both. He pulled out 2 sealed envelopes. They wanted you to understand their reasoning. He handed me my envelope. Inside was a letter in Mum's handwriting. My darling Emma, it began. If you're reading this, your father and I are both gone, and you're probably confused and hurting. I'm so sorry we couldn't explain this while we were alive. Your father and I have watched both our children grow, and we've had to face some difficult truths. David is successful, but he's become someone we barely recognize. He visits out of obligation, not love. He's embarrassed by our simple life. You, my sweet girl, put your life on hold to care for us. You moved home when we needed you. You held your father's hand during his last breath. You sat with me night after night, never complaining, never asking for anything. 6 months ago, we overheard David and Vanessa in the garden discussing our estate. David told her that once we were gone, he'd sell everything and finally afford that house in Kensington he wanted. Vanessa laughed and said it was about time we did something useful with our lives. We realized we'd raised a son who saw us as assets to be liquidated, not people to be loved. Emma, everything we built for family. We're leaving it to you because you understand that. The business is yours to run or sell as you see fit, but we hope you'll keep it going. The money comes with one instruction. Use it to live the life you deserve. You've sacrificed enough. As for David, he's receiving exactly what he deserves based on his contributions. We love you so much, sweetheart. Be happy. With all our love, Mum and Dad P.S. The combination to the safe in your father's study is your birthday. There's something inside for you. I was sobbing by the time I finished. Through my tears, I could see David reading his letter, his face growing paler with each line. When he finished, he crumpled the letter and threw it across the room. This is emotional manipulation. They were sick. They weren't thinking clearly. Actually, Mr. Pemberton said coldly, your parents were evaluated by 2 independent doctors before updating their will. Both confirmed they were of sound mind. They also recorded video testimony explaining their decision. I've watched that video, Mr. Hayes, and it would not reflect well on you in any legal proceeding. The fight drained out of David. He slumped in his chair. Then Vanessa's voice cut through, sharp and cruel. This is pathetic. We don't need their dusty old house. David makes more in bonuses than they probably saw in a year. Let's go. She stood up, grabbing her designer bag, but David didn't move. He was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. You changed the locks, I said quietly. You threw my things out in the rain. You were selling the house before they were even cold in the ground. I thought... He started, then stopped. The house was always supposed to go to me. No, I said, standing up. Mom and Dad left me everything because I loved them, David. Not because I wanted their money. When was the last time you told them you loved them? He couldn't answer. I need the keys to the house, I said, turning to Mr. Pemberton. I have a complete set here, the solicitor said, producing them. Your parents wanted to ensure you could access your inheritance immediately. I took the keys. I'll need a list of everything David removed from the property, and I expect it all returned within 48 hours. If anything is missing or damaged, I'll be pursuing legal action. I documented the contents thoroughly, Mr. Pemberton said. I have photographs and inventories. It would be in everyone's best interest to ensure everything is returned intact. Vanessa tugged at David's arm. Come on, this is beneath us. They left without another word. The door closed, and I was alone with Mr. Pemberton and the wreckage of my family. Your parents were remarkable people, the solicitor said gently. They wanted to protect you. I didn't know about any of this, I admitted. The money, the business profits, any of it. They were modest but brilliant business people. They lived simply and invested wisely. The printing business adapted to digital services 5 years ago, and it's now one of the most sought-after design shops in the Northwest. I drove to the house in a daze. The sold sign was still there, mocking me. I'd have to cancel that immediately. The key turned smoothly, and I stepped inside for the first time in a week. It smelled sterile. David and Vanessa had already started clearing things. The family photos were gone from the hallway. Mom's favorite vase was missing. I walked through each room, cataloging what was missing. They'd taken the television, Dad's record collection, Mom's jewelry box. In the kitchen, her recipe box was gone. The rage roared back to life. How dare they? I photographed every room, every empty space. Then I went to Dad's study. The safe was behind his desk, concealed in the wall. My birthday, 15/07/1998. The safe swung open, and inside were letters, photographs, Dad's journals, and a USB drive labeled, "For Emma, the truth about David." I took it to Dad's computer. The drive contained dozens of files organized by date. I clicked on the oldest from 3 years ago. Emma, love, if you're watching this, your mom and I are gone, and you're trying to make sense of everything. I want you to know the truth. Dad appeared on screen, looking tired but determined. 3 years ago, David came asking for a loan. He needed $200,000 for an investment opportunity. Your mom and I helped him. He never paid back a penny. When I asked about it, he said I should have known better than to lend money to family. I sat down heavily. That's not all, Dad continued. I started keeping track. The next video will show you what I found. I clicked through systematically. Dad had documented everything. Recordings of phone conversations where David asked for money and made excuses. Emails where he criticized our parents' lifestyle. Text messages between David and Vanessa discussing how much the house would be worth, what they'd do with the money. The final video was dated 2 months before Dad died. He looked frail but focused. "Emma, my darling, I need you to understand something. Your brother isn't bad at his core. He's lost his way. He's become consumed by greed and forgotten what matters. We're leaving you everything because you're the only one who can preserve what we built. You understand that family isn't about money or property. It's about love and sacrifice and showing up when things get hard. But revenge isn't about punishment. It's about justice. It's about showing people the consequences of their choices. David threw away his relationship with us for money he never needed. He has to live with that now. Use this evidence if you need to. Protect yourself. But don't let anger consume you the way greed consumed him. Be better than that. We love you, sweetheart. So much. Now go live your life." I sat in that study for hours, watching the videos again, reading the documents. My phone kept buzzing with messages from David, each more aggressive, demanding I reconsider, threatening legal action. Sophie arrived with wine and Chinese food. I showed her everything. We sat on the floor, surrounded by evidence, and we made a plan. First, I contacted the estate agent. The sale was canceled immediately, and I threatened legal action if they'd accepted deposits without proper verification. They apologized and removed the listing within the hour. Second, I sent David a formal letter demanding the return of all items within 48 hours. I included a subtle mention of the video evidence and potential legal action. Third, I visited the printing business Monday morning. The manager, Sarah, cried when she saw me. "Your parents talked about you all the time," she said. "They were so proud. They always hoped you'd take over one day." I spent the week learning the business properly. The company had evolved beautifully, offering traditional printing to modern digital design, custom packaging, even web design. The client list was impressive. Sarah showed me plans my parents had developed before they got sick. They wanted to expand into sustainable printing, she explained. Eco-friendly materials, carbon-neutral operations. They said it was the future. I could see it clearly. The business combined with my design skills and sustainability practices. It could be something special. David returned most of the items, though Mum's jewelry box was still missing, along with Dad's valuable books. I sent another letter, less subtle, mentioning the video evidence and my willingness to make it public. The jewelry box appeared on the doorstep the next morning. The books were never returned. I let it go. Some battles weren't worth fighting. Sophie helped me move back in properly, transforming the house from a shrine into a home for my future. We kept Mum's rose garden, Dad's study, all the family photos, but we also painted walls, updated furniture, made it mine while honoring their memory. 6 weeks after the will reading, David appeared at the door on a Tuesday evening, without Vanessa, looking exhausted. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. I almost said no, but I stepped aside. We sat in the living room where we'd played as children. The silence stretched between us. "I watched Mum and Dad's video," he finally said. "The one they recorded for the will. Mr. Pemberton sent it to me." "And?" "I didn't realize they knew about the money I borrowed, about what Vanessa and I said, about all of it. They knew everything, David. They weren't stupid. They were heartbroken." He nodded slowly. "I came to apologize, not to ask for anything, not to contest the will, just to apologize. You were right. I can't remember the last time I told them I loved them. I was so busy being successful that I forgot to be their son." "You threw me out in the rain," I said calmly. "The day after we buried Mum." "I know. I thought I was entitled to everything. I thought because I was successful, I deserved it more than you. I was so angry that you'd had time with them that I didn't. I thought you'd manipulated them. I took care of them, I said. While you were too busy for phone calls, I was driving them to chemotherapy. While you were embarrassed by their life, I was holding their hands. I didn't do it for money, David. I did it because I loved them. I know that now, he whispered. Watching that video, hearing Dad talk about how proud he was of you, how you never asked for anything, I realized I'm the one who lost everything that mattered. You got the house and business, but you also got their last words, their final moments, their love, and I threw that away years ago. We sat in silence. Vanessa left me, David said eventually. When the money didn't materialize, she left. Turns out she was more interested in what I could provide than who I was. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. Don't be. It's another consequence of my choices. He stood slowly. I'm moving back to Manchester. I quit my job in London. I want to try to become someone Mum and Dad would have been proud of. They were always proud of you, I said. They were just disappointed by the person you became. He nodded. Is there any chance we could try to be siblings again? Not right away, but someday? I thought carefully. Forgiveness wasn't the same as trust. Maybe someday, I said, but you need to prove you've changed. Not to me, to yourself. That's fair. He walked to the door, then turned back. If you ever need help with the business, if you ever want a partner who knows something about business, I'd like to try to make up for that. I'll think about it, I said. But I'm making all decisions, and everything stays in my name. Understood. He managed a small smile. You're going to do amazing things. Mum and Dad knew that. I should have too. After he left, I stood in Mum's rose garden. The roses were blooming, filling the evening air with their scent. It was September, and the light was fading, painting everything gold. My phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. Major client interested in sustainable packaging contract. Potential $500K revenue over 3 years. They specifically asked for you by name. I smiled, feeling something unfamiliar blooming in my chest. Hope. Over the next months, I transformed the business. We became Hayes & Hayes Sustainable Print Solutions, investing in eco-friendly equipment. My design work started attracting major clients who wanted both beauty and environmental responsibility. The rental properties continued generating steady income, which I reinvested partly into the business and partly into a scholarship fund in my parents' name for young women studying design. I turned the family home into exactly what Mum had hoped for, a space filled with love and life. Sophie practically lived there, and we hosted dinner parties, design meetups, and monthly gatherings for other young women running family businesses. David did move back to Manchester. He got a job as a financial consultant with a smaller firm, working reasonable hours, living within his means. We met for coffee every few weeks, slowly rebuilding something that resembled a sibling relationship. He never asked for money or favors. He just showed up. On the first anniversary of our parents' death, I organized a memorial at the house. David came, and together we planted an oak tree in the garden, one that would grow strong and lasting. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, David said. When you needed family most, I failed you completely. You were grieving too, I said. You just didn't know how to show it. That's generous, but we both know that's not the whole truth. I was greedy and entitled and cruel. He took a deep breath. I read their letters again, Dad's journals too. Did you know he wrote about us every day? I've been reading them slowly, I admitted. Some nights I can only manage a page before I start crying. He was so proud of you, David said. Every entry in the last 2 years talks about how strong you are, how creative, how you sacrificed your dreams to care for them. And when he writes about me, his voice cracked. He loved me, but he was so disappointed. That's worse than anger. We stood watching the sunset over Mum's garden. Somewhere in the distance, children were playing. Life continuing. The business continued thriving. Within 18 months, we doubled revenue and won several industry awards for sustainable practices. I hired 3 new designers, all young women with incredible talent. I also started teaching design workshops at the community college, giving back the way Mum and Dad always had. One evening, working late, I found something I'd never noticed. Behind a filing cabinet in Dad's old office was a small door. Inside were boxes of his old notebooks from when he'd first started the business. I spent hours reading through them, tracing his journey from a young man with a dream to a successful owner. But what struck me most were entries from the year I was born. "Emma arrived today," he wrote. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, with Margaret's eyes and my stubbornness. When I held her, I made her a promise. I will build something lasting, something she can be proud of, something that will give her choices. This business isn't just for me anymore. It's for her future. I sat in that storage room and cried, clutching those notebooks. He'd been thinking of me from the very beginning. Every sacrifice, every difficult decision, it had all been for this moment. The revenge I'd wanted when David threw me out had seemed so important. I'd wanted him to suffer, to regret, to lose everything. But sitting there with Dad's journals, I realized the best revenge was never about punishment. The best revenge was living well. It was honoring the people who believed in me. It was taking the gifts I'd been given and creating something beautiful and lasting. It was proving that love and sacrifice mattered more than money or status. David and I would never have the relationship we'd had as children. Too much had happened. But we had something new, harder earned and maybe more valuable. Mutual respect and the shared goal of becoming people our parents would have been proud of. 3 years after that rainy day when I stood outside with my life in bin bags, I stood in the same spot on a sunny morning, watching delivery trucks bring new equipment. The roses were blooming, the house was full of light, and in my pocket was a letter from a young woman who'd taken my workshop and just landed her dream job. "Your parents would be so proud," Sophie said, appearing with coffee. "I hope so," I said. "I think about them every day." "They knew," Sophie said firmly. "They knew exactly what they were doing. This wasn't just about property or money. They were giving you tools to build the life you deserved." She was right. The inheritance wasn't a reward. It was my parents' final gift, their way of saying, "We saw you, we appreciated you, and now it's your turn to soar." David called that evening. I saw the article about Hayes and Hayes in the Manchester Business Journal. Front page. Mum and Dad would have framed it. "I'm having it framed for the office reception," I admitted. "That's perfect." He hesitated. "I've been thinking about Dad's journals. He had this vision for expanding into educational printing, working with schools. What if we explored that? I could help with business planning. You could handle design and sustainability." "Are you asking to work together?" "On your terms, with you in charge, everything legal and documented. I want to contribute to the legacy Mum and Dad built. I want to be part of something that matters." I thought carefully. Trust was earned, and David had been showing up for 3 years. He'd genuinely changed. "Put together a proper business proposal," I said. "We'll review it with Sarah and our accountant, and we'll decide together." "Thank you," he said quietly. "That's more than I deserve." Maybe it was. Or maybe it was exactly what our parents would have wanted, their children working together, building on their legacy, showing that love and family could survive even the deepest betrayals if people were willing to do the hard work of change. The real revenge wasn't in David's suffering. It was in my success and happiness. It was in proving that kindness and sacrifice created something more lasting than greed ever could. It was in building a life that honored my parents' memory and values. When I locked up the house that night, I paused at the door. "I'm doing okay," I whispered to whatever part of them might still be listening. "I'm building something beautiful. I hope you can see it." The wind rustled through the rose garden, carrying the scent of Mum's flowers. And for just a moment, standing in the doorway of the home they'd built, the business they'd created, the life they'd made possible, I felt their presence as clearly as if they were standing beside me. They'd given me everything that mattered, and I was going to make sure it counted.